Selena Veyra wanted a romantic escape, Dorian Veyra wanted a fortune, and Dr. Marwan Kleist knew exactly how to make someone disappear. Asterisk asterisk. What began as a luxury honeymoon cruise through the Mediterranean quickly spiraled into a night of betrayal, greed, and a crime so meticulously planned that it left the world asking, how can someone vanish without a trace on a ship in the middle of the sea? Selena Veyra had always wanted the perfect honeymoon. After months of wedding planning, she and her new husband, Dorian Veyra, booked a Mediterranean cruise aboard the Ocean Reverie, a luxurious ship known for its 5-star service and glamorous clientele. They boarded in Barcelona, surrounded by tourists taking selfies, the ocean breeze soft against their skin. For Selena, this was more than just a vacation, it was the start of her dream life. She shared everything with her online followers. Posting photos in real time. Her Instagram feed filled with snapshots of crystal blue waters, designer outfits, and romantic dinners under the stars. Dorian smiled for the camera, but he rarely checked his phone. To their friends back home, the couple seemed happy, glowing in their new life together. The Ocean Reverie was a floating city, complete with restaurants, a casino, private spas, and multiple swimming pools. The first few days passed like a fairy tale. Selena spent her mornings at the upper deck pool, snapping pictures of the sunrise and sipping herbal teas. Dorian stayed up late, often gambling in the casino lounge while she slept. He told Selena he needed time to unwind, but the truth was more complicated. He'd lost a large sum of money before the wedding, and the cruise casino was his chance to recover some of it. When he wasn't gambling, he was drinking alone at the bar, staring into his glass, eyes sharp but distant. On the fourth night, a formal dinner was held in the grand ballroom. Passengers dressed in tuxedos and evening gowns, posing for photographers beneath golden chandeliers. Selena wore a silver silk gown and smiled for every picture, though her mood had shifted. Dorian barely spoke during dinner, his phone vibrating constantly in his pocket. He excused himself 3 times to take calls, leaving Selena sitting alone at their table. Other passengers noticed. Some whispered that the newlyweds didn't seem as happy as they appeared online. After dinner, Selena walked the upper decks alone, her silver dress trailing behind her in the warm sea breeze. She stood at the railing, staring into the dark water below. Her reflection shimmered on the glass as the ship cut through the moonlit waves. Her thoughts drifted to the last few days, Dorian's growing distance, his long hours in the casino, and the strange conversations he'd had in hushed tones with one of the crew members. But she pushed those thoughts aside, reminding herself that marriages were complicated. This was just the beginning. Everything would get better once they returned home. The next morning, the ship docked briefly in Marseille. Selena took more photos for her followers, wearing a white sun hat and posing near the local markets. Dorian stayed behind on the ship, claiming he needed to rest. When Selena returned, she found him asleep in their cabin, the curtains drawn tightly shut. She scrolled through her phone, reading messages from friends who commented on how perfect everything looked. But something in her gut said otherwise. That night, they attended a poolside party. Lights flickered over the water as a DJ played music from the 90s. Selena laughed with other passengers while Dorian sat at the bar, scrolling through his phone, avoiding eye contact. Around midnight, Selena decided to return to their suite alone. She changed into a silk robe, removed her makeup, and stepped back onto the upper deck for one last look at the sea. The ship was quiet by then. Most passengers were asleep, and the wind was the only sound she heard. At exactly 2:17 a.m., security cameras captured Selena walking toward the upper deck's railing. Her robe fluttered behind her as she disappeared into the far corner of the ship. Moments later, the cameras on that section of the deck went dark. No one noticed at the time. The ship continued sailing smoothly through the Mediterranean night, unaware that the next morning would bring a mystery no one on board would ever forget. The next morning, the crew of the Ocean Reverie followed routine procedures. Breakfast was served, deck chairs were cleaned, and passengers gathered for morning yoga on the upper deck. But one person was missing. Selena Veyra never returned to her cabin after her late-night walk. Her silk robe belt was found lying loosely near the deck's railing, fluttering in the soft wind. Her sandals were carefully placed nearby, as if she had taken them off before stepping closer to the edge. When Dorian woke up and found the bed empty, he alerted the crew, a full ship wide. Search began immediately. Crew members checked the spa, the casino, and all public areas. Security Officer Aria Rendell took charge of the investigation. With a background in military security, Aria was known for her attention to detail and calm under pressure. She ordered a review of security camera footage from the previous night. That's when the first clue surfaced. The footage showed Selena walking alone toward the upper deck at 2:17 a.m. wearing her silk robe. Her long hair was slightly damp, suggesting she may have showered before going outside. But what happened after that was unclear. The camera feed from the upper deck abruptly stopped just after she passed into the far corner of the ship. For exactly 12 minutes, no footage existed. When the cameras came back online at 2:29 a.m., there was no sign of Selena. The security team checked the system logs and found something disturbing. The cameras hadn't failed due to technical issues. They had been manually shut off from the control room using an override code. Only a few people on board had access to that code, and each use was supposed to be logged. But there was no official record of it. Captain Lino Sartell was notified, and he immediately contacted Maritime authorities. By the time investigators arrived in the next port, the Ocean Reverie was already the subject of headlines. Passengers whispered among themselves, speculating about what had happened. Some thought Selena had fallen overboard by accident, but others suggested something darker. Witnesses came forward with small but chilling details. One passenger, an elderly woman named Cora Melvin, reported hearing faint footsteps running on the deck above her cabin during the night. Another, a bartender closing his shift, recalled seeing a shadowy figure near the upper deck around the same time the cameras cut off. But no one could identify who it was. Meanwhile, Aria Rendell focused on the ship's digital records. She checked keycard swipes, guest logs, and crew access points. Dorian's keycard had last been used at 12:45 a.m. when he returned to his cabin after the poolside party. There were no records of him leaving after that, but Aria knew that electronic logs could be tampered with. A new lead emerged when Lucas Morrill, the freelance photographer, reviewed photos he had taken during the party. In one image, Selena appeared in the background, smiling at someone out of frame. Zooming in revealed a man following her up the staircase toward the top deck, but the image was blurred. The man wasn't Dorian. His face was partially hidden by shadows, making identification difficult. By the afternoon, the captain ordered divers into the sea to search for a body. The waters of the Mediterranean were calm, but the divers found nothing. No fabric, no signs of injury, no floating debris. It was as if Selena had vanished into thin air. News of the disappearance spread fast. Social media erupted with theories. Some claimed it was an accident. Others believed it was a staged disappearance or a planned crime. Yet no one could explain why the cameras had failed during those crucial 12 minutes. As the sun set on the sixth day of the cruise, the Ocean Reverie continued its journey, but the atmosphere had changed. Fear and suspicion spread among the passengers. Everyone wanted answers, but no one could agree on what had really happened to Selena Veyra. When the Ocean Reverie reached the next port in Sicily, Italian authorities came aboard. They immediately sealed off the upper deck, where Selena was last seen. Captain Lino Sartell cooperated fully, though the strain on his face revealed his concern. He had captained ships for over 30 years, But this was his first missing person case with international media attention. The police began interviewing everyone on board, from passengers to maintenance staff, searching for inconsistencies in their stories. Dorian Veyra sat quietly in the interrogation room. He repeated his account. He had gone to sleep around 1 o'clock a.m. and woke up alone at 7 a.m. When he discovered Selena was missing, he alerted the crew. His voice was calm, but investigators noted his lack of emotion. They dug deeper into his background and uncovered troubling information. 6 days before the wedding, Dorian had quietly purchased a $2 million life insurance policy on Selena. Her signature was on the document, but experts suspected forgery. This revelation shifted the case from a possible accident to a likely crime. Meanwhile, Aria Rendell and the security team focused on ship surveillance. They checked access logs, service elevators, and crew areas. During their search, they found an unusual entry. Dr. Marwan Kleist, the ship's onboard physician, had used his security card to enter the upper deck medical station at 2:23 am right, in the middle of the 12-minute camera blackout. According to the ship's standard procedure, the doctor should have logged any medical emergency or call. But no such record existed. Aria grew suspicious of Dr. Kleist and began digging into his past. She found that before working on cruise ships, Kleist had faced legal trouble in Germany. His medical license had been temporarily suspended due to allegations of falsifying patient records. He later relocated to international waters, working as a cruise doctor to avoid further scrutiny. This raised new questions about his involvement in the case. Forensic investigators examined Selena's personal belongings. Her phone was missing, but her laptop was found in the suite. On it, they discovered unsent emails to a close friend. In one draft, Selena expressed fears about Dorian's behavior. She mentioned late-night phone calls, hidden financial documents she had stumbled upon, and suspicions that Dorian was hiding something from her. Another discovery deepened the mystery. Hidden within the ship's data logs was an alert labeled Level Gray, a secret emergency protocol used to discreetly handle deaths at sea. These situations were normally reported to maritime authorities immediately, but the Ocean Reveries Level Gray log had been erased, except for a digital footprint showing it had been activated. Briefly at 2:25 a.m., Aria confronted Captain Sartell. With this information, he admitted that Level Gray existed, but insisted he hadn't authorized its use. Only a few crew members had access to trigger the protocol, and Dr. Kleist was one of them. The pressure mounted when Lucas Morrill, the photographer, was brought in again for questioning. At first, he claimed not to know anything beyond his blurry photograph. But under scrutiny, he confessed that he had seen more than he had shared. He admitted that after the poolside party, he went to the upper deck to take night shots. There, he witnessed two men dragging what looked like a body bag toward the ship's service entrance near the waste processing area. Lucas said he was paid in casino credits and drinks to stay silent. He refused to name who had bribed him, but investigators suspected Dorian and Dr. Kleist were involved. The investigation now pointed toward a coordinated cover-up. The missing footage, the erased Level Gray alert, and the secret meeting between Dorian and the doctor painted a picture of something far more sinister than an accidental fall. As the ship remained docked in Sicily, passengers were ordered to stay on board. The Ocean Reverie was no longer just a luxury cruise. It had become the scene of an unfolding international crime. As the investigation unfolded, Italian authorities broadened their focus beyond Dorian and Dr. Kleist. They examined every corner of the Ocean Reverie, searching for physical evidence to support the growing theory of a planned murder. Divers combed the waters again, but there was still no sign of Selena's body. Forensic teams scanned the ship's service corridors, laundry rooms, and waste disposal areas, places rarely visited by passengers. That's when they made a disturbing discovery deep in the vessel's lower deck. Hidden behind the maintenance panel near the engine bay, they found traces of blood splatter. Initial tests confirmed it matched Selena's DNA. Alongside the blood were small pieces of fabric matching the silk robe she had worn on the night she disappeared. The location was far from where she was last seen, raising a terrifying possibility. Someone had moved her body after the cameras went offline. Aria Rendell worked with the technical team to uncover how the security system had been tampered with. They found that the override code used to cut the cameras had come from the doctor's login credentials. Dr. Kleist denied any involvement, claiming his account must have been hacked. But further analysis showed that the login was made from a terminal inside the medical bay, which required a fingerprint scan, something only Kleist could have provided. Investigators also examined the ship's waste processing records. The Ocean Reverie had a powerful waste compactor designed to handle garbage before disposal into the sea. Logs showed the machine had been activated at 2:41 a.m., just minutes after the camera feed resumed. It was a highly unusual time for such an operation, and when the machine was inspected, traces of human tissue were found inside. Though degraded, the remains were consistent with Selena's DNA profile. Digital forensics recovered fragments of deleted messages from Dorian's phone. Some were simple phrases like, "It's done, and I'll transfer the rest soon." One particularly damning message said, "We wait until Marseille, then it's clean sailing." Authorities interpreted this as a plan to dispose of Selena before the ship reached its next major port. Bank records revealed that Dorian had transferred a large sum of money to an offshore account registered under a false name. When investigators traced the account, they found it connected to an entity linked to Dr. Kleist. This confirmed what the authorities had suspected. Dorian had paid the doctor to assist in covering up the murder. Further digging revealed that Dorian's motive was more than just the $2 million life insurance payout. He had also forged documents to claim ownership of Selena's fashion blog and online brand, which brought in a steady revenue stream through sponsorships and advertising. She had signed over part of her company to him after marriage, but Dorian intended to take full control. His plan was to inherit everything. Lucas Morrill, the photographer, finally broke down during his second interrogation. He admitted he had witnessed Dr. Kleist and another man, who he now identified as a crew member from Waste Management, carry a heavy, wrapped object down to the ship's lower deck. He said he hadn't spoken out earlier because he feared for his life. With this testimony, investigators arrested both Dorian and Dr. Kleist. The Waste Management crew member, under pressure, confessed his role in helping dispose of the body, but claimed he was threatened and promised a large sum of money. He provided details of the operation, confirming that Selena had been killed on the upper deck, moved to the lower deck under cover of darkness, and her body destroyed to erase all evidence. As the ship remained anchored under heavy security, the luxury cruise had turned into a crime scene. What started as a romantic honeymoon had spiraled into a cold, calculated crime driven by greed and betrayal. The media frenzy intensified, and the world watched in horror as the full scope of the plot came to light. The arrests of Dorian Veyra and Dr. Marwin Kleist sent shockwaves through the passengers aboard the Ocean Reverie. News outlets around the world broadcast the story, labeling it the most chilling cruise ship crime in recent memory. Social media exploded with speculation, dissecting every detail of the case. What had begun as a glamorous honeymoon had ended in an international scandal involving fraud, murder, and betrayal. As the investigation deepened, Italian prosecutors uncovered even more layers to the conspiracy. A forensic team analyzed financial documents found in Dorian's luggage. Among them was a forged will that transferred ownership of Selena's entire business empire to him. Her fashion blog, clothing line collaborations, and social media contracts had been carefully reassigned in legal documents that were backdated to before the wedding. Experts confirmed that Selena's signature had been digitally copied from an old rental agreement. The forgery was almost perfect, but not perfect enough to fool investigators. The investigation also exposed a trail of hidden debts. Dorian had been involved in risky investments and had lost hundreds of thousands of dollars to online gambling. His motive for murder was no longer a mystery. Killing Selena wasn't just about collecting her life insurance. It was about wiping away his own financial ruin and seizing control of her business to rebuild his life. Dr. Kleist, meanwhile, faced a separate inquiry into his past activities. Records from his previous medical practice in Germany surfaced, revealing multiple accusations of insurance fraud and illegal prescription sales. His cruise ship career had been a way to escape his damaged reputation. But working in international waters gave him more than just a new job. It gave him the perfect cover to participate in criminal acts without fear of immediate arrest. The waste management crew member who confessed became a key witness. He described how, on the night of Selena's disappearance, he received a call from Dr. Kleist instructing him to meet on the lower deck near the ship's compactor. When he arrived, he saw Dorian and Kleist carrying what appeared to be a large bag wrapped in tarp. Under threats of violence and promises of payment, he agreed to help dispose of the contents. The compactor was used to crush garbage before it was released into the sea during designated waste cycles. Using it to destroy human remains was both horrifying and deliberate. It allowed the conspirators to erase the most crucial evidence, the body itself. Forensic scientists managed to recover microscopic remains from the machinery, but the bulk of Selena's body had been irretrievably lost to the depths of the Mediterranean. During the trial, prosecutors presented a timeline of the crime. They argued that Dorian had lured Selena to the upper deck under the pretense of a late-night walk. Once there, with the cameras disabled by Dr. Kleist, Selena was killed. Her body was wrapped, carried to the ship's lower level, and disposed of while most passengers slept. The following morning, Dorian played the role of the worried husband, knowing the evidence had already been erased. Despite the lack of a complete body, the evidence was overwhelming. The jury found both Selena Veyra and Dr. Kleist guilty of murder, conspiracy, fraud, and destruction of evidence. The waste management crew member received a reduced sentence in exchange for his testimony. The case sparked international debate about safety protocols on cruise ships. Lawmakers demanded stricter surveillance policies and raised concerns about the ease with which shipboard crimes could be concealed. Cruise lines were forced to review their internal security measures, while the media continued to cover every detail of the trial and its aftermath. Selena Veyra's family held a memorial service in California, though her remains were never recovered. Her death became a tragic symbol of how a picture-perfect life, displayed carefully on social media, could hide the darkest of secrets. The world watched as a beautiful honeymoon turned into one of the most chilling maritime crimes of the decade.